lot of live trees, and some trees, such as your white oak and your maple and your hickories, burn good even when they're green. Most of your other woods don't burn good when they're green. They would cut down a tree that was that didn't burn very good, and they would use it for the back log. And this here is the back log that I'm going to use. Now, Nessmuk built his fires generally about 3 feet wide. So he would take a big back log, say a tulip poplar, something that doesn't burn good when it's green, and he would make that's the back log. Then for the andirons, he would use smaller logs, about 4 inches in diameter. He would place them up against the back log. And this is what you supported your burning logs on. Then we take a couple other logs. And as I said, for the back log, he would use something like poplar. It didn't burn very well. Same thing for the, they called these hand junks or billets, is what they called some of these logs, some of the terminology of the day. So they would place a couple billets up against the back log, and they would lay these up here. And they would build their fire on those supports. And what those supports do is allow air to get up under the fire. You need a lot of oxygen to have a good hot fire that didn't smoke much. So when you normally build a fire on the ground, you're getting air from the top. This allows you to get air from the bottom, so you have a clean, hot fire with very little smoke. So he would build this in this fashion. And you get all the small stuff and set it on top. I probably should have come up and broke this up earlier, huh? Now there's a lot of interesting uses for this fire. Not only will it keep you warm all night, but it's a good fire to use for cooking, and I'll explain that in a minute. As I said, it is a very hot fire. You're thinking you don't need a real hot fire to cook on, but you'll see here in a moment. Have you guys ever heard of the upside down fire? Yeah. I've seen that on some YouTube videos. And this is kind of like an upside down fire, if you want to call it that. Uh-oh, don't fall. All right,
that would have been a good blooper.
Now another technique I want to show you. Like I said, I learned this fire from reading George W. Sears' book, Woodcraft and Camping by Nessmuk, I think is what it is. Now this here is a twig bundle. And I learned this technique from reading Morris Kahansky's material. Some of you guys know who Morris Kahansky is. And he used the twig bundle to get a fire going. So if anybody wants to light that tinder bundle, no pressure. No pressure.
Look out!
Hold it up under here for me. He's the one that's going to get burnt. See, I got gloves on. Now when I light my fires, I like to light it and get it going and be done with it. I gather up all my wood that I'm going to use for the night. My kindling, my backlog, my night wood, and I set it all up. Then I get me a big twig bundle, one spark, one light, I light it, I got a fire going. I'm not sitting there trying to get a fire going slowly, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when I light a fire, it's going. Now I can go sit down, drink my tea, eat something, you know, whatever. My fire's going. I don't have to play around with it. Now when it comes to cooking, after you get this fire going, those hot coals drop down between the logs onto the ground. You can take those hot coals, scrape them out with a stick or a shovel, and you can bring it out like the women did in those homes with those fireplaces, and they would cook on the hearth with their cast iron. And you've seen they had the old cranes that they would swing the cast iron into the fire and stuff. You scrape these coals out here, and you use your Dutch oven. You set it on top of those coals. Then you take some more coals, scoop them on top of the Dutch oven. You bake your biscuits, pies, whatever. Same thing with the skillet. I've got some steel pot stands that I got from the Lodge factory store there in Pigeon Forge. And you can set those on the ground, put the coals on top of that, and set your skillet. So you can fry, bake in your Dutch oven, make anything that the pioneers would make by using this fire. You're not cooking directly over that fire, you're using the coals underneath them. Now the coals will burn for a long time, so it gives you a steady, regulated heat so that you can cook evenly and steadily. And cast iron is one of the best cooking mediums or utensils that you can use.
Amen.
Now a lot of people say, oh, cast iron cooks so good because it transfers heat so well. And that's not true at all. Cast iron is a very poor conductor of heat. And that is what makes cast iron such a good cooking utensil. Because the heat travels very slowly through cast iron. And therefore it disperses heat slowly. So once you do get cast iron hot, it stays hot for a long time. It cooks even, it cooks steady, and that's getting hot. So this is a way, if you're in a long-term camp, you know, 3 or 4 days or a week, or you're in a hunting camp or something, and you want to build this fire like this, you have, not only do you have heat for your shelter, you can rake out the coals, you can cook, boil water, and do all those types of things. Now if you're really cold, in an area that's really cold, like Maine, you can build you a reflector that will operate the same way as the back side of that fireplace I was telling you about. And it'll reflect the heat this way. And what Nessmuk would do, you'll see in the book, if you read the book, he made his own shelter, but oftentimes he would use a lean-to. And when you build that lean-to here, about this far away from the fire, you have your reflector reflecting heat in. It hits the top of your shelter, direct right down and all around in your shelter. And not only will you stay warm in your shelter, but you can stand outside too, because there's a bubble of heat radiating off that fire in all directions. The back side of it's being reflected, and all this right in here, out for a few feet on either side, is a whole warm area. So it can be 10 degrees outside, and you can walk around in here with a long sleeve shirt. You don't need your coat, your big hat, you're not freezing. You can stand right here and be completely comfortable, as long as you keep that fire going. Now what you want to use for the fire is good dry seasoned wood, usually, like oak, any of the oaks, hickories, maples, things like that. But there are woods like the maple, sugar maple, black maple, hickory, and your oaks. Now, oak can be categorized, the oak family can be divided into two parts, the white oaks and the red oaks. Now the red oaks don't burn worth a darn when they're green, but the white oaks, any of the white oaks, you can cut a white oak tree down, split it up, throw it in that fire, and it'll burn just as good as dry wood. Same thing with hickory and maple, one of my favorites. Tulip poplar doesn't burn well. Sweet gum, it burns okay, but I would use sweet gum for a backlog or the pan junks in front here, because they don't burn. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to defer those to someone else.
Yeah, one question.
Yeah.
Can you do your ending one more time? Because I had to turn my camera off and turn it back on. All I got was clapping.
Oh, yeah?
This is the end of the demonstration. That's what I need.
Okay.
I have like 4 minutes left.
Coming to the demonstration. That's the Nessmuk Fire. I call it the Nessmuk style because it's something he used, but like I said, he didn't invent it. But he was just fond of using it. Now, Horace Kephart used it too, and a lot of other woodsmen. It was a very common fire back in the day. And I might add that they would also stack up their nightwood for the nighttime. And it would be big logs, 4 to 6 inch logs, usually green, because it does burn slower. Green wood, like I said, the maple and the white oak. 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, you got to get up, go to the bathroom, you throw a couple more logs on the fire, go back to bed. You're good all night long. This will burn slow and hot all night long, so it'll keep you warm. And it doesn't matter if you're in Maine or Mississippi. You don't need a fire this big down here. It don't get that cold. But I've used this fire in Tennessee when it was down to 8 degrees, and I sat out here with the long sleeve shirt, and I was totally comfortable. It does work. I can attest to that. I've used it several times. So that is my demonstration. Thank you for coming out, and let's have fun the rest of the weekend, guys.
There we go.
All right, thanks. So when I was a wee little tot about that big, I found that I was always interested in the woods, the birds, the trees, and the creepy crawlies on the ground. I liked that stuff. But growing up, I remember when I was 5 or 6 years old, a movie came on television, and it was called Grizzly Adams. And here's this guy, this mountain man. He lived out in the woods. He had a big beard and lived in a log cabin, and he fished and he hunted, and his best friend was a grizzly bear. And I could not take my eyes off that television screen. That movie I was fascinated with that. I thought that was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. Later on, a TV series come out, like a weekly series, and I watched that too. But I remember watching that movie, and at the end of that movie, I told my dad, I said, when I grow up, I'm going to be like Grizzly Adams. I want to live out in the woods like him and have a best friend or a grizzly bear for a best friend. Ben was his name, I think it was.